Hi, I'm Jake Zwart. I'm a Mendenhall postdoctoral fellow with the U.S. Geological Survey in the data science branch. And I've been a part of the FE Methods Working Group, and I will be presenting on behalf of both the Methods and the Cyber Infrastructure Working Groups, and the members of these groups are listed here. For the first few months, these groups met separately, but started joint meetings shortly before the workshop to work on a blog post about reproducible forecasting workflows. The goal of the Cyber Infrastructure Working Group is to make it easier to implement, archive, and share automated iterative forecasts so that any research group that can develop a forecasting model can also deploy it in an automated system. The main activity of the Cyber Infrastructure Working Group was to decide on guidelines for reproducibility for the Neon Forecasting Challenge. And they came up with a tiered system, where at a minimum, forecasting output would be in a standard format with documentation. Tier 2 would be include source code and any ancillary data for producing the forecasts. Tier 3 would be a fully contained forecasting application in a container or virtual machine with exact versions of libraries for producing forecasts. Cyber Infrastructure Group also looked into platforms for archiving forecast output for the Neon Forecasting Challenge and forecast in general. They collated a list of requirements of the platform, which included long-term viability, searchable metadata, machine readable and writable, ability to be updated frequently, for example, daily forecastings, strong versioning, citation-friendly identifiers, citation, provenance, and usage tracking. Next, the group evaluated existing platforms on meeting the requirements, and current candidate platforms include the Open Science Framework, Zenodo, Data One, and the Environmental Data Initiative. There isn't really a consensus yet on which platform to use, and the Cyber Infrastructure Group is still exploring the various capabilities of these platforms, and look here to hear more about this in the future. The Methods Working Group aims to advance the statistical methods and tools for forecasting and data assimilation by advancing statistical approaches and best practices for data assimilation, translating these tools into software that is usable by ecologists. Furthermore, the group wants to make aware common tools that already exist for completing various forecasting tasks. The short-term goals of the Methods Working Group was to build awareness of the various tools and packages useful for forecasting tasks. And for someone that is new to forecasting, there may be a lot of terms and names and tools that are thrown around, and can leave somebody scratching their head and spinning their wheels for how to get started with some of these forecasting tasks, or maybe even not aware of some common tools that exist for certain tasks. For example, like what tools are available for downloading meteorological data. So before the workshop, the Methods Working Group wanted to organize some of these tools into forecasting tasks in the hopes that it will be less daunting for someone new to forecasting to utilize some of these tools. Medium and long-term goals of the group include providing best practices for these tools and tasks, analyze tools available, and determine if there are tools that need to be developed for a certain task, and potentially organize a workshop to develop a strategic plan for forecasting methods and tools. For the short-term goal, the group laid out 4 broad categories of tasks that are needed for forecasting. And these included reproducible forecasting workflows, modeling and statistical resources, including uncertainty quantification and propagation, data ingest, cleaning, and management, and visualization, decision support, and user interfaces. And around each of these broad categories, the group is working on a series of blog posts that give a brief overview of the forecasting task, as well as the tools available for completing the task. There will be some, well, there is some overlap with other FE working groups, especially the cyber infrastructure group. So the methods group and CI group coordinated on the first blog post on reproducible forecasting workflows. We're calling these blog posts task views, which is inspired by R, the computing language R task views, which curate R packages for certain computation, such as like time series analyses or Bayesian statistics. Our task views are intended to provide guidance on tools used for forecasting tasks and is aimed at being an introduction to these tools, especially for those new to forecasting. The methods and cyber infrastructure groups are trying to leverage our collective knowledge and experience, or maybe the tricks of the forecasting trade, and summarize the elements of these tools in a few paragraphs. Importantly, these task views are not meant to be comprehensive, and the tools listed are the ones that the group members have found most useful. This is also supposed to be a living document, so any suggestions to tools that we have missed, please add them as suggestions in the Google form which Jody made, and I think that's linked on the first blog post. So the first task view covers reproducible forecasting workflows. Reproducibility is of utmost importance because it builds trust between stakeholders and the scientists. It increases scientific transparency, and also often makes it easier to build upon methods and or new data and or add new data into an analysis. The methods and cyber infrastructure working groups covered 10 different tasks used for making forecasting projects more reproducible. These included scripted analyses, project structures, version control, literate programming, workflows and dependency management, unit testing, continuous integration and automation, containerization, metadata, and data and code release. And you can view this task view in the URL linked at the bottom. So that's a brief overview of the activities from the methods and cyber infrastructure working groups. Future activities include further exploration of the archiving platforms I mentioned earlier, developing a community for cyber infrastructure plan, and producing 3 more task views in addition to the reproducible forecasting task view. And of course, we welcome all new members, and anybody is welcome to join either of these groups. Value your input, ideas, and look forward to help and how we should move these groups forward. Okay, thank you.